Welcome in to KneckUp Live, the first ever episode of KneckUp Live, the podcast where we explore mental health, personal growth, and the stories that inspire us all to live our best lives. I'll be your host and guide for this introductory show today, and I have the pleasure of introducing you to your future hosts of the show, Mr. Jeff Ramey and Mr. Gene Collins. Guys, welcome to your show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
So, Jeff, I'll get started with you. What is the main mission or goal of KneckUp Live? What is the idea behind the whole program?
Well, our main mission is to provide coaches and student athletes and just anyone really that would use our journal, give them a systematic tool, a very user-friendly tool to help them with the mental side and emotional side of sports. That's something me and Gene over the last year have identified as a need, and that's what made us put this journal together.
So you mentioned the journal. Let's get started talking about the journal. What is the journal? How do I get my hands on it? And how do I use it? Gene?
The journal, we have put the journal on Amazon. It's been on Amazon now about 60 days, so you can purchase it on Amazon, or you can also purchase it on our website. Check up KneckUp.com. We'll take you right to the link to order our book. Or if you see us in person, I'm sure we'll have some copies as well.
Fantastic.
So what, in general, Jeff, what is the book about, and how does a person use it?
Well, again, I think it's very systematic, very user-friendly. It's a 10-week journal, so 70 days total. Really focusing on time management, habit tracking, daily gratitude, daily affirmations, and also a journal entry every day that is going to stimulate some thought and mainly dealing with the different emotions and the mental aspects that athletes deal with, and probably that we all deal with on a daily basis.
Gotcha. So, Gene, you guys, you co-authored this book. So what motivated you specifically to write a book about athletes and a way for them to track their mental health?
Well, after spending 33 years on the bench as a coach and, talking to Jeff, realize that's one component that we don't spend enough time on, dealing with mental health and the anxiety that comes with trying to perform at a high level, or even coach and coach at a high level. So, those are some things that I've experienced myself personally as a coach. And so, as we got to talking, we clearly identified that that's a need. There's a need for it.
And you mentioned background there, and clearly, background is what makes us who we are. And Jeff, do you want to talk a little bit about your background and what kind of brought you to this journey?
Well, born and raised in Portsmouth, Ohio, went to Portsmouth High School. Was a basketball, baseball player. Quit playing football after my freshman year. Was fortunate enough to be on the 1988 state championship basketball team. But my main sport was baseball. Played for Hall of Fame coach John Tipton. Went on to play at Indiana University for another Hall of Fame coach and Bob Morgan. And then after my junior year, got drafted by the Cincinnati Reds by Gene Bennett, who's from Willisburg, Ohio. Played a few years in the farm system. Got into coaching at the college level and the high school level, but just decided that's not the career I wanted to pursue. Still enjoyed it, but just wanted to go a different route. So went and became a nurse practitioner. I've been doing that for about 18 years, I think. I've worked in the emergency room, family practice, currently working for Dr. Saab in the pulmonary group here at Southern High Medical Center, and also doing some psychiatry part-time on the side. Another thing Gene and I both have done is we went and got a certification in sports psychology as well. So
everything you've mentioned there pretty well ties into everything that goes into this book, and you've got a lot of experience there, a lot of probably a lot of wins and a lot of losses that you've learned from that really are poured into this book. Gene, let's talk about your background a little bit. What do you bring to the table?
My background is I worked in the Department of Youth Services and Corrections on the juvenile side. I was a social worker and administrator. During those 16 years that I worked there, I worked with various youth. I worked with homicide youth. I worked with sex offender youth. I work with mental health youth. So I got a really, really good sense of understanding, that side of youthful offenders. And then I did 33 years as a basketball coach, 18 on the college side, on the men's side at Shawnee, and then left there and went to Portsmouth High School and took over as the boys basketball coach there and did 14 years there. I also worked at Portsmouth City Schools in an alternative setting for youth who had been removed from normal school and was in an alternative setting. So, I've spent a lot of years dealing with difficult youth and youth dealing with a lot of mental health and anxiety. So it's been a good mix for me.
So definitely a background there that ties into everything you guys are doing, and clearly some expertise on people who really need help, kids who really need help, athletes who need help. I think you have a lot of experience there, and a lot of that will be poured into the journal, into this program that you guys have built. So let's talk about mental health in sports in general. So Jeff, why do you think it's particularly important for student athletes to focus on their mental health?
Well, obviously, it's important for performance. When you play sports, especially when you start getting to the high school level and the college level and the professional level, more people come to watch you play. They video it. It's there for everybody to see and critique. And your statistics are in the paper, and everybody knows how well you did or how well you didn't do. And then with the travel ball and the AAU circuit, I just think there's more pressure on our young athletes than we've ever seen. You got issues with overbearing parents. So now you got just the stress of wanting to perform and be a good athlete. Now you got these outside factors that are getting, affecting them as well with social media. A lot of parents are putting a lot of money into the travel ball and AAU, and with the goal of getting a college scholarship or get an opportunity professionally even. And sometimes when that doesn't happen, and just the pressure of that, I think it just is a lot for our youth, our young athletes.
Right. I think so too. And the odds of, becoming a professional, I always heard from a coach that I respected a lot, 1 in 100 is going to go to college. So you look around this locker room, one guy in here is going to go play college. And then when he goes to college, he's going to be in a locker room and look around, and he's going to find one guy that goes to the pros. Mm-hmm. And that's it. So your chances of making it are very slim to none from the get-go, unless you're very, very gifted and dedicated. So, I think that ties all into that. But Gene, what are some of the common mental health challenges that student athletes face now?
I think the instant gratification, the need to play right now, the need to have success right now, the concept of team is very difficult for kids now because everybody's seeing guys playing, at the college level. They play 1 year and they go pro. So down at the high school level, everybody thinks that their kid ought to come right out of junior high and go right to the varsity and play, not understanding there's a process. You have to wait your turn. You have to be patient. And kids and parents both don't want to be patient, which creates anxiety for the kid because they feel like, well, in order for me to be successful, I got to go right to the top right now.
And sports, was really created as and is a absolutely outstanding educational tool. But when you add all these pressures to it, it kind of takes that kind of takes the air right out of that. So, kids need to learn how to deal with that. And I think, your guidance and your journal will help them through that. So what are some practical advices that you could give people right now, Jeff, that would help them just every day that maybe they could incorporate now into their mental health practices?
Well, I think learning how to manage their time. I think, creating good habits. I think creating a good morning and nighttime routine. I think controlling your personal health as far as your fluid intake, your diet, your sleep optimization, stress management. I think part of our journal is daily gratitude. No matter how bad of a day you're having, I guarantee you have something to be grateful for. You need to remind yourself of that. I think daily affirmations. No matter how bad you may be performing, I guarantee you are doing some things well. And sometimes we focus on the things we're not doing so well, and we forget about the things that we are doing well. So I think sometimes we need to be reminded of that. I think the journaling is very beneficial in the fact that it gets you to start thinking and kind of just create a mindset or some mindfulness about some of the things you're dealing with, whether it be anxiety, depression, things like that. I think having some awareness of your peers, your relationships. We have a thing called a goal habit mismatch where, an athlete creates a goal and you got to ask yourself, are your thoughts, your actions, your habits, your relationships, everything you're doing on a daily basis, is it bringing you closer to your goal or is it bringing you further from your goal? A lot of times what we find is these athletes have a goal, but their habits and their choices and their routines aren't bringing them closer to their goal. And it's actually a goal habit mismatch is what we call it. So just, taking an daily inventory, being mindful of your choices, your habits, your routines. And I think, like I said, this journal is a very systematic tool, very user-friendly, that can hopefully help the student athlete do that on a daily basis.
And so it makes me think that the journal is more of a guide even to help the student athlete through each day, not only just there to record, what they've done for the day, but it actually helps them guide their routine throughout each day. So looking forward, what are the long-term goals for, the podcast itself? Gene, what do you guys plan to explore on this podcast?
We want to, interview various people from different walks of life to talk about long life lessons they had, things that they might be able to add to somebody that comes to the podcast that's dealing with stress or how to manage this situation or how they deal with success or failure. And then we also want to use it as a reference tool for people to be able to come to our website and get information that will provide, podcasts. They can go back and review, is our, the goal for the podcast.
All right, so the website is live now. It's www.checkupneckup.com, and that K there in the middle is for the knowledge that the guys will be sharing with you. So it's checkupneckup.com, neck with a K, NeckUp. It's a silent K, but there's a lot of knowledge packed in that silent K.
Right.
So are there any upcoming projects that you guys have planned or initiatives that you guys have ready to roll out or anything in the future coming up, Jeff?
Well, I think the first phase was getting the journal out. Second phase probably going to be doing this podcast. I think the podcast, the one thing we're probably going to try to focus on is interviewing, past athletes, current athletes, and actually we've had some opportunities that have opened up outside of athletics. So like Gene said, we may be interviewing all people from all walks of life, all professions. But I think our podcast, we want to really dig into the mental and emotional side of things and let current athletes know and future athletes know that you're not on an island when you're dealing with performance anxiety and depression and just the stress of that goes along with being a student athlete. And maybe we can help them navigate through that process, whether it be our own personal experiences, things we've observed, or maybe some things we didn't do so well, or maybe some of the people we interview are going to share some, situations where maybe they didn't handle things so well as far as the pressure and the stress and anxiety. So I think all those are just really, the podcast is an opportunity for athletes and people to learn and to grow.
So you've mentioned, not just athletes, but you talk about folks in general that can benefit from this. And I believe it. I mean, this is not just something that's, for athletes. Anybody could benefit from getting into a routine. It would help their career. It would help their, mental state of mind on a daily basis, getting into a routine, but especially for youth, developing and learning that at a young age to where it becomes actually routine, not a chore. But Gene, how long do you think kids now would be spending on the journal on a daily basis?
I think 20 to 30 minutes a day on the journal would be sufficient. Some may take a little bit more time than that, but I think if you spend 20 minutes a day going back and looking at what you did from the time you got up and to the time you went to bed, and took your time to document what you did, would be sufficient.
And Gene, I'm going to come right back to you with this question, because we talk about, everyone in general. There's a program that schools use called PBIS. It's a behavioral system. And I was, gifted, I guess, enough to be able to work in an education system last year, and was able to experience, how that works. But a lot of teachers, a lot of administrators, a lot of students need further help with that program. And this could be something that helps tremendously with interventions or with PBIS in general. So Gene, would you like to elaborate on that?
Yes. And actually, we've kind of shifted gears and kind of started the last week, kind of focusing on some PBIS. We feel like our journal is very compatible to PBIS. And one of the things that we look at is we look at the teacher as the coach, and we look at the subject as the sport, and we look at the student as the athlete. So we've kind of got a little acronym that we're going to be using called CASH. And so that we feel like we might really, really be able to help schools with the PBIS, with the journal, because the journal can touch kids that need a program that they can use. Our program is turnkey. All they got to do is just, get the product and use it. There's a scoring system there, so they can measure success not only weekly, but monthly. And so we feel very, very strongly that our journal can help with PBIS.
I totally agree with that. And just to add to that further, I think there's a lot of kids out there, youth and parents, who are, looking for some guidance and some help on this. So maybe they could, visit KneckUp.com, talk to their administrator at one of their schools about your program, and see if maybe it's something that they would like to implement. So anybody could mention it to their administrator, and any administrator could contact you guys on your website, and I'm sure you guys would provide them the guidance to get them set up to help them out.
Yes.
So guys, I am really excited for you guys. Thank you for sharing your vision for the podcast and your vision with the journal and the program in general. Jeff, is there anything else you'd like to add before we depart tonight?
I would just like to add that, we created this journal and this idea over a discussion about sports and our experience in sports. But I hope to give student athletes some perspective. I think this perspective is important, that, when you're playing a sport, it is what you're doing. It's not who you are. It shouldn't be your identity. There comes a time where you're going to have to go out into the workforce and be an employee, or be an entrepreneur, or, going to have to be a husband and a wife and, play those type of roles. So the exciting part for me is that this journal is going to equip them to be better at those type of things. When you look at the money we're spending on strength training, speed development, skill work, and whatever sport it is, there comes a time when that stuff has no value. But this journal, the focusing on the mental and emotional is going to last a lifetime. And I know, Gene and I both, we want to develop the whole person. And I think this can do that. Like I said, I think it's a nice to carry it, to have in your toolbox when you go out into the workforce. And definitely just want to emphasize that we're trying to develop the whole person and not just the athlete.
Well, I think you hit a good point there, because that form tackle I learned when I was 15 years old, that perfect form tackle really does me no good now. I guess maybe it could in a certain situation, but I'm not going for perfect form at this point. I'm just going to make the play, right? So, you're right there. We do train a lot on some things that really we can't carry with us our entire lives. So why wouldn't we spend, like Gene said, 20 to 30 minutes a day as compared to what we're spending physically 3 or 4 hours a day prepping? So why wouldn't we spend 20 to 30 minutes a day making ourselves better for the rest of our lives? So guys, I'm excited about what's to come. We have more podcasts in the future. I hope to be a guest on your show going forward. And I'm going to be turning it over to you at this point. I'm looking forward to tuning into the next episode. What's coming up next week?
Well, Rob, I want to add that number one, you will absolutely be a guest on our show, but also we're going to do the, like we've talked about, the weekly update. We'll do a weekly podcast on the local football season. And
fantastic.
Where Gene and I are going to, be the host, and you're going to be the guest, and you're going to kind of give us some updates on the local high school football season.
Have mercy. That's going to be fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It'll be fun. It's going to be a good time. So.
All right, guys. Well, until next time, take care and keep thriving, and peace out.
All right. Thank you, Rob.